You've heard of Titanic, but I'll bet you didn't know one of her sisters lost at the bottom with her. That ship, the youngest of the three Olympic-class liners, was the HMHS Britannic. This is her story. Britannic's keel was laid down on November 30th, 1911, just as her sister Titanic was being fitted out. She used the same gantry slip as her sister Olympic, thus saving time and money by not having to clear out a third slip as had been done for both Olympic and Titanic. Due to improvements brought about after the loss of Titanic, including the double hull heading higher up the ship, she was not launched until February 26, 1914. The fitting out process then began and she entered dry dock to have her propellers installed in September, just a month after the First World War broke out. After war broke out, all shipyards with naval contracts, including Harlan and Wolff, were given priority to use raw materials for military purposes. This caused all civil projects such as Britannic to slow to a crawl. The British government also requisitioned ships for military service, hospital ships, or troop transport. Both Olympic and Britannic were requisitioned for service, with Olympic serving as a troop ship and Britannic as a hospital ship, thus taking on the name HMHS Britannic, or His Majesty's Hospital Ship Britannic. She was requisitioned as a hospital ship on November 13, 1915. She was placed under the command of Captain Charles Alfred Bartlett and painted in traditional hospital ship livery, white with the red cross and the green horizontal stripe. It had been agreed to that under no circumstances was either side to fire on a hospital ship, and that a hospital ship would treat wounded from both sides. She had over 3,000 beds and was a fully functioning hospital afloat, with operating rooms and even a morgue. On December 23, 1915, she sailed from Liverpool to Mudros to assist with the evacuations of the failed Gallipoli campaign. She sailed alongside her sister Olympic, now serving as a troop ship, as well as two of her attendant competitors from the Cunard Line, Mauritania and Aquitania. These four ships were later joined by the SS Statendam as they sailed. After her military service had ended, Britannic went back to Belfast and be converted back to an ocean liner. That conversion was interrupted when she was called back into service once again for her government. Britannic would make two more successful voyages to the Mediterranean and back as a hospital ship. She left Southampton on November 12, 1916, once again en route to the Mediterranean. On November 17, she stopped in Naples, Italy for a coaling stop. She left Naples and continued on to the Mediterranean. On the 21st of November, she rounded Cape Matapan and entered the Kea Channel where her fate was waiting. At 8:12 a.m. on November 21st, she struck a mine that had been laid a month prior by German U-boat U-73. In wartime, as a security measure against surprise attacks, ships sailed with their watertight doors shut, only opening them for a few minutes for shift change. As you probably have guessed, the explosion hit right during the morning shift change. In doing so, it warped the watertight doors in the front part of the ship in the open position and sealed Britannic's fate. She would join her sister at the bottom. Let's make this abundantly clear. U-73 did not violate any wartime agreement by laying that mine. It did not intend that the mine would hit a hospital ship. Mines, though, do not discriminate and will detonate upon any object hitting it. In this case, it happened to be the starboard bow of the HMHS Britannic. Britannic sent out distress calls, which were received by several ships including the HMS Scourge and the HMS Heroic, but the ship never heard back from any of the other ones. Turns out the explosion that caused the antenna wires between the ship's masts to snap. Britannic could send messages all day but could not receive them. If a vessel was on its way to help, she would never know. As she sank, Britannic began to develop a significant starboard list. Captain Bartlett ordered an attempt to beach Britannic on the island of Kea. The explosion had knocked out the steering gear, so steering with the rotor was impossible. The ship's list did not help any matters either. His only option was to have the port shaft of propeller move at a higher speed than the starboard side. A risky maneuver for sure, but a noble effort to save the ship. While all this was happening, the hospital staff was preparing the lifeboats as was ordered by the captain. He did not order the lifeboats to be lowered, however, and unfortunately this order was not followed and it had deadly consequences. Some crew members had feared the ship's list would get too significant to lower lifeboats, so they lowered two before being ordered to do so. The port propeller was still turning and partially surfaced when the two lifeboats came down and it sucked them right in. The boats and the people inside them stood next to no chance. One person who did survive those lifeboats was Violet Jessup, a stewardess who also survived the sinking of Titanic and the Olympus collision with the HMS Hawk. Talk about lucky. The ship's propellers finally stopped and the evacuation continued. At 8:45, Captain Bartlett concluded the ship's rate of sinking had slowed and despite the list becoming ever more significant, ordered the engines restarted and the evacuation stopped in an attempt to beach the ship once again. This did not work. At 9 a.m., Bartlett was told the rate of flooding had increased since the ship got back underway due to the forward motion and reached all the way up to D-deck. Bartlett realized there was no hope of saving the ship from that point forward, ordered the engine stopped, and gave the order to abandon the ship. The captain continued to organize evacuations after swimming to a collapsible lifeboat, as water had already reached the bridge. Britannic continued to capsize to starboard, and by the time the stern was out of the water, the bow had already struck the sea floor, since Britannic was longer than the water was deep. She slipped beneath the waves at 9:07 a.m., just 55 minutes after the explosion. She was the largest ship lost in World War I and the world's largest sunken passenger ship. She lies today in 400 feet of water on her starboard side. The wreck was found in 1976 by renowned explorer Jacques Cousteau. Britannic never crossed the Atlantic and was drawn to a full career, something only Olympic enjoyed in her class. She was largely ignored by the public until the wreck was found, thus bringing the story to the masses, as it should be. The White Star Line reassigned Britannic's crew to the SS Statendam, renamed the SS Justitia after the sinking. After the war, Germany, as part of war reparations, was made to give some of its ocean liners to Great Britain. The White Star Line was given the German ship Bismarck as compensation for the loss of Britannic and renamed her Majestic. The HMHS Britannic is not one of the most well-known ships lost. However, she is one of the most captivating stories, one that has direct ties to Titanic and the First World War. In just a few short years, she went from being the biggest and best of the Olympic-class liners to a wreck on the bottom of the Aegean Sea. She will, though, never be forgotten.